the more that you own your story, the more that you just put it out there, and you don't really care. And so it's very cathartic. In the beginning, you're afraid of anybody knowing anything about you because you've been living in fear. And then the more that you start living the high noon life, it's just like, yeah, this is who I am. This is what I did. Yeah, I used to watch porn. I'm working on it. And you realize that that is not shameful. It's called freedom. Welcome back to Love, Life, and Legacy, the podcast dedicated to helping you navigate these hypersexualized times of ours. That was an interesting cadence. And today, Benji and I are unpacking what is this world tour that you've hopefully heard about if you are anywhere on social media. And if you're not, first of all, congratulations for not being on social media. And we'll explain it to you. Don't worry, we got you. We want you to understand that this is a world tour for some deep reasons. And not only that, it's going to be an amazing experience. And so we're going to have 4 stops, which you'll learn about. And they're strategically located, and we want you there. We want as many people there as possible because it's going to be a monumental event. So if you want to learn more about the world tour that's coming up sooner than you might think, then let's get into it. Welcome back, lovely
Welcome
people.
back, everyone. Welcome back.
Welcome back. It's day 770 on planet Earth, and Benji and I are at the helm here. Things are looking good. Forecast is looking sunny and with a whole lot of sun. By the time you've listened to this, the podcast will have been out, but I revealed in part 2 of the Purity miniseries what the official anthem of High Noon is, and I revealed it not on behalf of the entire team because they don't even know what it is, but it's my submission for the total best anthem ever for High Noon.
All right.
And Benji, I can't tell you what it is. You gotta discover.
Can I ask? Can I have? Is it a well-known song? Do people generally know the song?
It's just all of Limp Bizkit's songs. Just kidding. It's a 90s reference. They're the worst band ever. It's a very popular song that you've not only heard 1,000 times at least, like actual literal 1,000 times in your life, but you've probably sung it in church or at a workshop at least 12 times in your life.
All right. So super well known. Not a holy song. It's a workshop song.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it like a David Rendell type song? Like.
No, it's written by a famous man. I mean, not that David Rendell isn't. He's famous in our books, especially with that hair. But no, this is, I think, from the 70s. It was a song. It's a song that is in some random holy books, you know, those unofficial ones that have camp songs in there. It's definitely in there. Anyway, if you haven't heard it, everybody listen to it because it's right there. It's that where are my glasses moment, and your glasses are on your head. That's like, what's the High Noon song? Oh my God.
Yep.
I swear I was doing a deep dive. I spent an hour looking for different songs and different lists. I went through Google, and then ChatGPT helped a little bit. And then, I was riding a horse and I got hit with a song and I fell off, and I realized that
You felt it. Holy Spirit hit you like
Paul
a rock.
moment. Yeah.
Well, I'll give a different teaser to the episode. Andrew makes a Lord of the Rings reference for all of you Lord of the Rings fans, which there are way more than you think, Andrew. I know you're not the biggest fan.
I watched it with my kids. It was good.
I know you're a fan. You're not the biggest fan.
No,
it's just an
not even
interesting.
close.
Like it was Araceli, Andy Pock, myself, and Robert Cunningham and David Hirano here in North Carolina for a retreat, and we're all like giant Lord of the Ring geeks, and we're all eating fried chicken together, and we made a trivia, or Lord of the Rings trivia using ChatGPT, and it was the greatest time.
I just can't finish this podcast with you. You've changed.
Greatest
my
time.
mind.
Greatest
Too
time.
nerdy for me. Bringing me down, man. We want to talk about gathering. I'm trying to get a segue here. We are gathering. Sort nerd the cards gathering. We are cool the High Noon gathering, we're gonna do a world tour. That was that was the clunkiest
is.
segue in history.
Yeah.
We're gonna do a world tour, everybody, and you need to know about it because there's a lot of factors that are going into this. It's one of those moments where, and this has happened a few times in High Noon's history, where we are minding our own business, just plugging away, just working, just, slugging, just going for it. And then Uncle Dave gets this download. Some would say from God, others would say from the Lord of making us work more. And he had this vision, and it went like this: we need to go on a world tour. And it was because this is our...
To every single continent.
Yeah, he said every continent.
That was his wording, yeah.
We're going to do a penguins workshop in the Antarctic. They're our biggest fans. And so it's this sense of, okay, for context, it's technically our 10-year anniversary, exactly right around the opening of the new palace and all that in the middle of April. High Noon, Benji and I were there, and really got to lay this out so that there's no rumors that spread. But we were in a hotel room at a conference, okay? But it was Leighton, you, me, and who's the fourth person in the room?
Jenkins.
James Jenkins. Yeah. And we went to the Set Free Summit. And that was kind of the insemination of High Noon, and when the Wolfenbergers became known as a couple that's driving something forward. But this is also like what came before High Noon was the Blessed Marriage Project, which it was 3 blessed couples, second generation couples, and then John Williams, who would do these retreats around America, helping couples to experience love and renewal and be in a nice romantic environment. And but out of those retreats, there was some clear dysfunctions that popped up, because all these couples were coming because they wanted to improve their marriage or experience love or whatever. Some couples had been blessed in marriage for like 30, 40 years. And in the breakouts at the end of the first day, the men and women would separate so that they could talk about what's really going on in their marriage with a bunch of other same gender people. And porn kept on coming up. And so they're like, bing, bing, bing. This is probably something we should deal with. And then shortly after that, Reverend Kevin Thompson found out about this Set Free Summit. And typically, he was going to all these kind of summits about pornography by himself. He was a lone wolf who got no support, and everybody's like, "You're crazy. You're a weirdo," right? Like, what's up with that guy? He's going to one of these weirdo conferences. But he told the Wolfenbergers, and they knew it was like a perfect storm. They found out from him that there's this workshop. They had just heard from real people that this is a massive issue in our movement. This summit came up, and they were like, okay, let's do this. And they put out the signal. You did it. You sent out the email, right, Benji? On behalf of the BFM.
That was part of it, yeah. That's right.
And it was a warning call, and it said, meh, meh, there's this massive event about pornography, and if you want to be serious, you can get a scholarship to go. And 40 people showed up from our movement. We were the biggest group out of anybody. There's 800 people there, but we were the single most represented church. And the guy who started the Set Free Summit, he invested I heard millions of dollars of his own money, and then years. It was like 3 years to plan this thing. He hates our church. Hates it. He was on campuses witnessing on something called Campus Crusaders for Christ, and we'd be witnessing on campuses, and we were like mortal nemesises. That's a lot of sisses. But at that conference, he was so blown away by us that I saw him hug Uncle Dave. And so that was that was a monumental event where he had exactly 40 people show up and say, we care. And then from there, we're like, okay, what are we going to do? And out of that came the first High Noon Summit and blah, 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 world tour. Et cetera, yada, 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 world tour.
Yep. That's
10
it.
years later.
Yeah.
So Yeah, what you got? What you got?
I just remembered. I recalled when Uncle Dave called us. I was working at headquarters at the time in New York, and he was like, "Benji, we need to get this many people to come," and he basically commissioned me to figure it out. And
And it was 10,000 people, right?
and then I remember he just did that today to me, uh, in our Facebook group. He asked me to figure out how to get us all into the blessing this April. And then I just remember it just like piqued something in me. I was like, oh, he does that quite often. But he doesn't ask often, right? But when he asks, it's an important ask. It's a big ask, right?
Yeah, and just for the record, he went to the same school as Donald Trump. And I don't mean the school of how to tan your face and to be loud and boisterous. I mean the school of negotiation, where you shoot for the moon. If somebody says, I've seen Uncle Dave, it's the most miraculous thing. Because we're not of that ilk, really. You, me, Sammy, we're not like that. And so when somebody's like, oh, I'm staffing a 7-day workshop for like a summer workshop, and we were wondering if High Noon could give a presentation. Uncle Dave, I've heard him say this, is like, great, we'll prepare a 7-day workshop content. Like, no, this is just like a summer camp. He's like, yeah, we could have 7 days ready for each. Yeah, so and that's how he starts the negotiation, and it's so genius because by the time we work it down to 2 days, we still have 2 days of a 7-day workshop or whatever, right?
He anchors them high and then works down from there.
It's amazing. And it's not because he's a sleazy salesman. It's because this is his belief in what we do. And we lack that belief. That's like when true parents are like, hey, guys, you haven't restored a nation. We're like, yeah, we're getting to it. It's because they're there, right? They're like already there waiting for us, kind of checking their watch. And Uncle Dave's very similar in terms of High Noon stuff, where he's just like, he's already in Mars waiting for us to be like, I started my tour across the cosmos years ago. Where are you guys? And we're just trying to catch up. So it was 2015 was the Set Free Summit. Or was it 2016? Was it Set Free Summit?
16, yeah.
16, okay. So 2015 marks like all the the Blessed
BMP.
Marriage Providence.
Nailed it.
Yeah, the what is it called? What's the P?
Project. Blessed Marriage Project.
Oh, gee whiz. It's been a while. Yeah, and so this is that was the parent of High Noon, and now High Noon is the parent of School of Love and of many people's journey back to God, and we want to celebrate that by going on a world tour, y'all. So we had to figure out what world tour meant, by the way, because time and space is something that our team has to deal with. Uncle Dave says something big like world tour, and then we're like, okay, by world, what is possible for world, right?
Yeah.
So what we decided on is largely to just go where we already have a foundation with our chapters. So it's going to be a 1-month tour, and it's going to be in 4 strategic locations, 1 weekend each, right? So starting in May 24th, we're going to be in a little country called Bolivia. And we got our Latin America crew who's already planning stuff for that event. The weekend right after is going to be the Bay Area Family Church in, people say San Francisco, but I don't think it's San Francisco, but in the Bay Area. Okay? And that's going to be the last weekend of May, the 31st.
First.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then the weekend after that, June 7th weekend, we are going to be in a little country known as Philippines. And then we're going to end this puppy off the next weekend, June 14th, in Prague, Czech Republic. Benji, which stops are you going to be at? I heard you have some avid fans out there. Where are you going to be? So they can stalk you.
In Bolivia. Well, the Philippines, I've never been there. I'll be in the last three. So I'll be in the Philippines, I'll be in Prague, and I'll be in San Francisco. San Leandro, California.
So you're going to be in 3 of them.
Yeah, the last 3.
What do you have against the Philippines?
I will be spiritually. I will be in the Philippines, but Bolivia I'll miss the first one. But spiritually, emotionally, heartfeltly, I will be there, 100%.
I was sad because I was hoping to see you do the salsa.
Wow.
That's the whole weekend we're gonna be doing salsa. So let's go over this a little bit. You know, High Noon, Benji, think about this. We've really been an organization since 2016, like September is when I started spreading the word. Uncle John had a tight website for Pure Mind Online. I think most of you probably know this, but High Noon, before it was High Noon, was called Pure Mind Online, which was actually kind of cool. We had a really nice logo, and the theme was very red, and it was a good start until somebody was like, they're just laughing at our name. I remember I was talking to this young guy, and he's just laughing. I was like, yo, what's up? It's a good name. He's like, yeah. If it didn't spell out PMO, and I was like, what's PMO? He's like, that's the code for porn, masturbation, orgasm, man. You can't call your organization. We're just trying to help
code,
people.
yeah.
It's like too ironic. It'll make people's faces melt. And it's like, oh my God, what are the odds of that? You know, of having an acronym like porn or something like that. So we started out as Pure Mind Online, very humbly. I remember very clearly, like, just calling up the pastors that I knew that had been to the Set Free Summit or who kind of knew about what this was that was burgeoning, this new kind of fight against porn. I would just call them up and say, can I speak at your church? And just on faith in our relationship, they'd be like, yeah, what are you going to do? And I was like, I'll figure it out, right? And so I developed a talk, and it was very laden with statistics, and it was really a boring talk is what I'm trying to say. But it was like I had to figure out a way to give them some really big, difficult information that nobody was talking about in a way that was tailored to them. So specifically our church. And the first talk I gave was in my own church when I was in Maryland, and hardly any people showed up. And it was, I felt so rejected because I gave an announcement. I gave the message. It was a pretty full room. I was like, and then I'm just going to walk over there into that room right after service and give this talk. And like, I don't know, 10 people showed up. It was pretty low key. But that was the kind of us figuring out, where does this go? It starts with the conversation, right? That nobody's having. So let's just initiate the conversation. And so it's me going to small churches and stuff like that. And then by the following summer, then Sammy and Iggy start joining us, and that we did like a mini tour of Korea, and we're talking to Ajumas all of a sudden. All I remember is being in this giant church, and I saw this little old lady in a hanbok, and we're telling her about porn, and she's just like nodding, and I don't have any idea how much she is hearing because we had some translator. But it's like starting the conversation, and then at some point we start creating the program, right? The Ascend program, and then it's really just free for all. That program was just like, we don't have volunteers. It was largely just Sammy and I just making the content and trying to get facilitators and try to do everything. And it was good, but it was messy. And then Q2 about 10 years later, where we now have this foundation, we have a bunch of staff, we have a bunch of chapters, and there's an entire team dedicated towards programs alone, right?
Yeah.
So the journey has been one of trial and error for sure, but this 10-year anniversary is us to also, what are we going to be making during this tour?
I'm really curious, before we get to Andrew, like, how is your experience now? Like, coming from the humble beginnings of just you traveling the world, and now you're managing people internationally, like a giant team of, over a dozen folks. How is it for you? I think people will be curious to hear. I'm curious to hear about that.
Yeah, it's great.
I mean,
I love it. I was just thinking about how much I love it these days because it's both now. Because what we're doing is we're escalating our capacity to help people rise up. I just created training for our chapter leaders to become level 5 leaders. It's banging. It's really good content, and that's going to trickle down to all of you. And so what we've done is we've developed systems, many systems. And like, I'm not a systematically minded person, like one of those guys, you know, like a Silicon Valley guy that makes systems. I just create systems out of necessity. Like, I need to survive and I want to do a lot, so I have to develop systems in order to function. I have a system for my family. Like right now, I couldn't be at home because they're doing construction next to us and I couldn't record this podcast. So I just bolted and I was like, you guys know the schedule. I don't have to explain anything to my kids because we already made the schedule last weekend for their whole week. And so they know what to do. It's like, it's a great system. But same with our staff is like, even when we came up with chapter leaders, Benji, remember? We didn't even know what that was. We just knew that we wanted something like it, but we didn't have a common vision or understanding. And it was through the process of trial and error and then developing systems that we now have these amazing high capacity people that we don't need to babysit. They get it, right? And so
Yeah.
it's a process of like leveling up what it means to be a high noon leader. It means that you're still down in the trenches sometimes, but you're also managing high noon systems. How do you spread honesty across an entire organization? That's a great question to answer because as an individual, it's pretty clear. Within your family is pretty clear, but how do you then spread that entire culture, the 5 virtues culture across an international organization? That's this, we're kind of going through these phases of growth that are asking more of us and causing us to like accelerate our capacity at a pretty, I know it's a reasonable rate. I think we're all right, you know?
Yo guys, if you are struggling with your sexual integrity, you want to quit porn and masturbation, but you don't know where to start, you've tried everything, there's something you haven't tried, you have not tried, going to our completely free webinar at highnoon.org. It is a completely awesome and free and very impactful webinar that's about 30 minutes. It's going to be good. It's good. It's really good. Check it out, highnoon.org, if you want to get serious about breaking free from porn and masturbation, or maybe you're kind of serious, maybe on the fence, and just curious, check it out. Go to highnoon.org, and that is a place for you to start to get your life together. All right, see ya.
So it's joyful because we don't have to make it up. We're just kind of scaling something that works, which is like healthy living. So how do we do that more as a team? And then how do we get our team leaders to do that on their teams? And like, it's actually a lot of fun. I like this game. That's what I was thinking about this as a vocation. You have to like, do I like this game that I'm playing? And with High Noon, I've been doing this. Yeah, I've been employed by High Noon for like 9 years, and it never gets boring. And it's not because it's so novel and it changes all the time. It's just like the layers get deeper and deeper, and it allows us the opportunity to get better and better. So it's a fun game to play.
Yeah. I mean, you've only been the director for like 2 years, a year and a half or something.
Something like that. Yeah, I always
It
avoided it.
it feels like forever because you avoided it for a long time, right? You always push it off.
Yeah.
It was like it was not in the cards for you. I remember for years it was like, no, Andrew, it's not going to be Andrew. And now it just feels like commonplace. You know, like how much has happened? The whole like, I think that was the first thing, our first retreat after you became the director, like right after director. That was like the annual thing. It was like, we're going to have chapters, right? And we were all like, you're crazy. And then it just feels like forever. And I think, you know, to your point, the enjoyment factor is really, I think, more important than we realize, especially in a kind of ministry-minded, arena. Because I remember I asked this to Damien. I don't know if this is like, you know, I don't know. But I asked him, like, when he was sent to Thailand, initially before he came back to America, I was like, just publicly on the comments of his announcement post, like, do you want to go to Thailand? I thought that was a good question. Right? He was like, mother's sending me to Thailand. And it was very somber, right? If you remember, it was a very somber post. Like, I'm leaving America. I have to go. And I was like, do you want to go? Just genuinely curious, not like a accusatory or anything. And he was like, he said something to the effect of, that's a stupid question. I was like, I think that's a good question. I'm just curious, you know? So yeah, I think it's a model of Chanukuk and Hainan living is like, how do we make life enjoyable regardless of what we're doing? We don't just suffer through, because that's the norm in our faith, or any faith environment, religious environment. It's like you have to suffer, otherwise you're not doing the mission. I mean, it's like a prerequisite in order to do something effectively, it has to be suffering.
Sure.
And if we're enjoying it's a very subtle thing that we can pick up on.
Yeah.
But if you're enjoying it, man, that's fantastic. Especially given like how long, especially the longer people are in things, generally the kind of it fades very quickly, like the inspiration and
The
novelty and
enthusiasm.
excitement.
Yeah,
the
for
enthusiasm
sure.
fades. It gets boring. It's like I don't really care about this anymore. But for me, I don't know about myself. I haven't really thought about it. But for you, it feels like, yeah, it's just getting the responsibilities getting bigger, but also the enthusiasm and excitement I've noticed is going up as too, which is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's definitely helps because okay, for anybody out there, I don't know how much people know about the internal workings of High Noon, but like we are a team of people. We're trying to be as professional as possible. We have ongoing like education to help us up our game, and so there's like that professional realm that we take seriously because we're handling people's lives and they rely on us, right? But more importantly for us is the dynamic of the people on the team, especially the core staff.
Yeah.
Because if we don't like each other or if we're withholding anything from each other, everybody that we're trying to serve suffers because then we're not genuine. We don't have any actual spiritual power. The result of having many, many difficult conversations is an implicit trust and power that is given to you by the cosmos, and it's only the result. You can't fast track it. You can't skip over the work. And so like the fact that we have the Wolfenbergers, Uncle Dave and Aunt Mitsue, who have been unrelenting in their own growth journey is honestly what allows us to do any of this. Because if they were, I think back to my relation, I used to be terrified of Aunt Mitsue. She used to scare the bejesus out of me because I didn't understand her. And sometimes she can be very harsh in her communication style. And for me, it's like, it's very confronting. But as I
Straight.
learned,
She's straight.
I mean, it's straight samurai. It's straight like there's a giant sword in my heart right now, and I don't know how to deal with it.
But it needs to be there.
It honestly, I love it. It keeps us fresh. I've grown to really appreciate that specific trait, and also, but she's grown and become much more filled with grace, and so is Uncle Dave. Like it gives me so much hope because 10 years. When I was hired, Uncle Dave used to call me kind of like the young guy, and now he always refers to me as the old man on the team. Like he always makes old man jokes, right? Because we have so many actual young people. Like we have David Hewish on our team now, he's still a teenager, right?
Yep.
So, but I just want to shout out to them, big shout out, because if they're not growing, then this whole organization is stuck, and they are growing. And I've seen them go through some really rough stuff, and they handled it in a High Noon way. And so it subconsciously gives us all a paradigm to follow. So like, so you can be like an elderly couple in your 70s. Shout out to Uncle Dave. Elderly, how does that feel?
Yeah. Old man.
And be so youthful in many ways, and to be so filled with optimism and growth and hope, and not be winding down but be winding up. And like that's super inspiring. That's what we're all looking for. And to be that they're still in love, and we've seen them fight, and we've seen it's not like all rosy posy, but they always come back to their baseline, which is loving each other and being tender with each other and listening to each other. And so the fact that they've been consistently growing has given us the space to also grow, right? And I just kind of follow in that footsteps as much as possible. I feel like it's super important to have mentors, and Uncle Dave has been my mentor for the past, whether he likes it or not, for the past 9 years or so. But I did want to mention that we're making a documentary of this 10-year anniversary tour. And the reason is because we want to capture as many testimonies as possible, and the heart, the essence of what we do, because we can be emphatic, would be a nice way of putting it, sometimes a little too hardcore, because we really care about this mission. And so we might come across as zealous for some. But the reason is because we've had conversations with people where they haven't, we've had people come up to us on multiple, like hundreds of people, and say, hey, I feel like I'm gonna leave my wife, or I felt like committing suicide, or these desperate moments, and somehow we've helped them to get out of those dark places. And
Yep.
we don't want to use this as a tool for promoting ourselves, but to like capture in a bottle what it is that we are doing and have been doing, and let people experience the sentiment, the emotion of that, because that's why we do this. That's why we're fresh, is because there's still people in need. If everybody was totally healed, then I would just quit. And that's kind of been the thing that I've been saying, is like when everybody's got functional sexuality and systems to like live life at the highest level, High Noon can just close up shop. We can just pack our little suitcases and go home, and we don't need to exist anymore. But we're still pretty far from that, I would say.
I think people
Dysfunction
aren't-
is on the rise still.
My take on it is people haven't heard enough from us, honestly. Like the amount of people, like we're just touching our movement at the moment. That's like our primary focus.
Sure.
Core audience. There are people that are outside our audience, right, that are joining programs or listening to us online, but our focus of where we're making our stuff for is our faith movement. And I mean, the amount of people that just struggle with porn and masturbation, not even touching like this sexual dysfunction and misuse of sexuality, and
Sure.
couples that need help intimately, right? We're like less than 5% touching this, scratching the
Of the
surface
world?
of our movement.
Oh, of our
I'm
movement.
talking
Yeah,
our
sure.
worldwide movement. Like it's, I mean, we're just getting started. If you just think about the math of things, and so that's like the next level, is how do we reach people that have like are doing everything right? They're trying to be a successfully single person, trying to get blessed, trying to work on their blessing, try to be a radiant person, trying to live without shadows. They just don't know High Noon exists, right? Or they might know it exists, but they don't know that it's for them, or there's a way for them to plug in some way, right?
Sure.
And so that's kind of the impetus of the chapters, like different languages, different group of people, different cultural approach and angle. And so that's why this like whole month has been, we're doing a 1 month sprint as of right now, recording, to reach as many of those unknown areas in our movement, those dark corners of our faith that aren't being touched by High Noon, right?
Yeah.
And it's a journey to figure out like what are the things that actually move the needle in terms of reaching people. But it's an exciting journey, because I definitely am convinced that we're not nearly started. Like we're just getting started in the first 10 years of what's possible.
Yeah, it's very true. And we're definitely far from mainstream, even just in our own little movement, right? And that's just, you're talking about porn and masturbation, right? Then there's the radiant crowd, which are like couples who feel like there's something off, or they're not thriving in their intimacy. And then there's core, which is helping single people really be 100% radiant eligible candidates for the blessing, and to remove their shadows. So yeah, think about it this way, everybody. Like, we want to be the people that, it's like a beacon for those out there who realize that they want the blessing and they want the full merit of the blessing, meaning like all the benefits of the blessing, but there's something blocking them. There's some hindrance to them fully experiencing and expressing the blessing in its entirety. And we will help people to identify what it is that's blocking them, and to remove that, especially in the area of sexuality. That's our specialty, because for most people, that is the thing that's blocking them from God, from each other, is that they don't know how to be fully expressed as themselves. They have some shadows, they have some whatever, and we want to help them remove that so that they can get back to their normal state, which is thriving. But there's, my God, how many people who haven't heard of us, or they have weird concepts about us or whatever. And so, yeah, we're working. That's part of this world tour, is, we will be meeting some new people for sure, but it's also, I wanted to talk about the content, because we're also going to be doing brand new content. It's going to be a weekend, 2 days, deep dive, it looks like we're going to be able to have kind of worship, like a really nice kind of worship experience on the Saturday night of but let's say, okay, Saturday, Sunday, 2 days. Saturday is actually, we're going to be doing in one day what we used to take 2 days to do, which is to identify your shadows, go through the dark tunnel of your shadows, which means like confronting some dark stuff. But by the kind of mid-afternoon, you're already experiencing the light, high noon's light, like not us, but God's light in this era of high noon. And then healing and processing. And then by the time you're in the evening, you're already kind of a lot lighter. And the second day is all about building your Chanuguk self, building your Hainun self in community. So figuring out a way to continue this evolution of yourself now that you're in the light. Because the worst time to make plans is when you're in the dumps, when you're blocked, because you can't see stuff. You can't, there's no vision in the darkness. Like literally and figuratively, you can't see. So how are you going to have a vision, right? So when you're in the light, that's the best time to make your plans and to start plotting out your life. And so that's what the second day is all about, which is like, how do you build it and how do you build systems of accountability and support so that you continue with this momentum? So the weekend is really going to be all new content. There's going to be a ton of testimonies. We're going to have music. I'm going to try to create as much like visual content as possible in this so that it can really stimulate different aspects of you. And yeah, it's going to be experience heavy because we want you to gain merit from this past 10 years of all the work that so many people put into this, starting with the BMP and then, all the volunteers and everything throughout these years. You can inherit all that in an instant and heal stuff and start to really feel liberated and free. And then to plan your life based on that, not based on your limitations, but based on this assertion that you are a child of God and this feeling. Yeah. So it's going to be a banging weekend, and we're going to be doing it in 4 locations. And so you need to come. We're also having a giveaway, Benji. You want to explain that?
We're having a giveaway, y'all. So one of y'all we have the budge for a all-inclusive trip to any of our 4 locations. You pick one, and we will get you there, and we'll cover your transportation, your accommodations, and your meal.
You gotta bring your own socks.
No socks. Well, Andrew led you some socks, but
And
other
we
than
had
that,
high noon socks that we could give, but
just
I don't know.
for this one person, you'll get some high noon socks. No guarantee. But we will get you there, and honestly, I think people have a pretty good chance of winning if they just do what we need to do. All right, and what we need to do is post on social media, your Facebook or Instagram, one of the two, how High Noon has impacted you. Just be as genuine as you can. Just whatever you want to say, how High Noon has impacted you. You have to include a website link, highnoon.org, in your post, and then just put a hashtag High Noon Life, and then so that we know you've entered as a contestant, and then we can put you in the giveaway. All right. And so one lucky person is going to be chosen out of a bunch of people to come with us and hang out with the team and have a good time at the workshop. So you could be in Timbuktu, you could be in Patagonia, Argentina, and you could fly all the way to San Francisco or Manila for one of our workshops. Sounds pretty good.
Yeah, we wanted to do this as a way to have somebody really benefit from the fact that we have the bandwidth to invite you to one of these events. And we just want to hear people's testimonies. We want to hear more and more and more. We want the world to know. And that's part of High Noon too, is the more that you own your story, the more that you just put it out there and you don't really care. And so it's very cathartic. In the beginning, you're afraid of anybody knowing anything about you because you've been living in fear. And the more that you start living the High Noon life, it's just like, yeah, this is who I am. This is what I did. Yeah, I used to watch porn. I'm working on it. And you realize that is not shameful. It's called freedom. And so we would love for people to, in the beginning, people kind of whispered High Noon, and now people shout it. Yeah, I'm part of a High Noon group, right? So we want to hear your testimony. We want you to put it out there for the world to see, and you'll gain benefit from it. And we also really want to hear it because it gives us fuel, just like we were talking about. When we get these testimonies, it really fuels us through those. We have a lot of days when we're just doing kind of logistical work, but hearing, hey, this person is thriving, they just had a breakthrough or whatever, it gives us like a lot of fire for our engines. So yeah, we want to hear it.
That's it.
So, okay, well, what are you most excited about this tour? Just
I think the workshop will be great. I have no concerns whatsoever. I think if you get a bunch of really awesome, stellar people, like the people that will come to these together, and we're very deliberate about what we're focusing on, it's just going to be an awesome experience that like will change people's lives. And I say that because a lot of workshops don't really change people's lives. It just inspires them. But we're going to inspire you, and we're going to do the work live so that you're not going to be like, okay, when I get home, I'm going to do this. When I get home, I'm going to try to heal or quit porn. It's like, we're going to quit porn. We're going to do what you want to do. We're going to do the healing, to whatever degree is reasonable for you at this stage of your life at the workshop. So I'm not concerned about that. I am actually excited to just hang out with everybody. I'm excited just to have some music going, maybe have some guitars, do like a live, we're going to do like the Saturday night live concerts or music, whatever we call them, worship things, and just having a good time eating food and goofing around. I'll be documenting kind of in an informal way. We'll have an official videographer joining us to document the whole thing and put a video together. Shout out to Mark, right? Mark Cooper. But I'm going to be doing more informal live streams, Facebook, Instagram, posting every day while we're there, reels and whatnot. So I'm excited to do that.
yeah, Benji, I feel like, you'll be on this is like your big day out, and I'll bring some snacks to make sure your blood sugar's all good and you're nice and happy. And, a change of pants just in case you get too excited. And it'll be fun. It'll be really nice. Yeah, we're going to have, not everybody's going to be at every stop. But most people, like Uncle Dave and Mitsue and I, are kind of enough for Bolivia. I think Sammy's coming too, which seems like a lot of people because none of us speak Spanish. But we'll be there because people, apparently Stephanie was saying that she said that we might come out. And they were genuinely excited for that. So we're gonna be out there. But the point is, we want to, there's some spiritual thing that happens whenever we go on tour, that we're not just like doing an event here and then here and then here. It's kind of like we're transporting something. And things change in the cosmos. There's like some shift that takes place whenever we do a tour. It's some sort of condition. And so, yeah, we want to take all the blessings from the different communities and give them to one another and cross-pollinate blessings and healings and all this. So show up, people. You're forewarned. I mean, this is a lot of notice. You have March, April, May. So you have at least 3 months. Yeah. So, and then the true kind of time to have such an event is mid-April. And obviously, we're not going to have an event in mid-April because the biggest event in our movement's happening in mid-April. So we've kind of extended it to the end of May so that people don't have any excuses, because you can go to Korea. We're all going to be in Korea. We'll all be at that event too. And we're planning a world tour. It's fine. You can do both. So if you're in America, then the last weekend of May, go to the Bay Area. We're going to try to organize as many communities to bring vans as possible to drive out. Just drive out. Just come in a caravan, just in a convoy, right? If you're in Latin America, go to Bolivia. Go to Bolivia. We'll also be organizing vans and stuff like that to get out there. And if you're anywhere in the Philippines, we're going to organize vans. I heard Ravi is confident that people will drive even 2 days to get to this event. Like from Cebu is this island that they would take a ferry. They'd take a van load of people through a ferry and all that. 2 days. We'll get you there. Just come. And then if you're anywhere in Europe, just take a horse, take a unicycle, something quirky. I feel like Europeans don't do things just like, they don't get in a Ford Explorer. They'll get into like a smart car that can fit like half a person. or they'll take a horse, or they'll take a train, or something, a royal cavalcade. Just get there, because we're going to be in Prague at the middle of June. We're going to end things in Prague, so you better be big. So wherever you are in the world, come. And if you're not in one of those countries, then enter the competition and you fly to one of the events, okay? No excuses. No excuses. And if you really don't have any other options, manifest money. Believe that God wants you there, and you'll get a ticket. It works. All right. Any last word, Benji? Before we
And
go?
if you want to get there and you don't know how, then do the giveaway. Join us in the giveaway, and that might be your manifested option.
Exactly. So no excuses. This world tour it started out with like us, wanting to celebrate 10 years. It's hard to survive 10 years of anything. But then Benji's our marketing guy, and he's like, nobody's going to just come to an event because it's like people flying from around the world because it's your birthday. There's a lot of birthdays out there. So that's for us. That's our celebration. It's our victory lap in a sense. But the actual event is for you, and it's going to be massively transformative. That's what I'm going to put a lot of myself into this in order to be the best possible workshop that it can be. And it's going to be brand new, hot off the press. So show up, and we'll see you there. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And we'll see you somewhere on the streets or somewhere here in digital space. God bless your faces.
Goodbye.
My friend, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to the episode. If you enjoyed it, I want to give you guys a little bit of action. If you are someone that wants to receive the blessing in the future, but you're struggling with your sexual integrity, or you are someone that is blessed currently and you're struggling, then we do have an opportunity for you. It's a completely free, totally free, easy to set up webinar for you guys. Go to highnoon.org. It's the first thing on the homepage. It's a webinar that's free. It's good. I put a lot of effort into it. I did, and our team did. So check it out, highnoon.org, so you can get started about getting serious about your sexual integrity. That's where you need to start. All right, do that.